Previously on the Lorekeepers. My name is the Grimoire, but you can call me Grim. This is what I said when my friends first found me. Those were the days when my pages were marred and smudged and empty. It seems like a lifetime ago. And so much has happened. And so much has changed. In my last recorded chapter, Lyse, Taxes, Azerax, and Marius faced the witch hunter's newly arisen leader, Toff, otherwise known as the Lich Knight. In a battle of black magic, amidst the fanatic prayers of fallen brothers, the dark wardens of the Drow struck from beneath the earth. The Lich was banished by the Lorekeepers, and now Marius rides east in pursuit of a phylactery as it is stolen away across the land of Farwyde. I was bidden to help contact Weaver, to alert him to the approaching witch hunters. Maybe he can help. I hope so. I worry for him. He only recently learned of Card's fate. He blames himself. Perhaps he should. Lyse and Taxes, they stride north to fallen Freedom Salvation. Advent were delayed in reinforcing it thanks to our strike against the Cloud March, but it will not hinder them long. And the legions of Silver Guard march quickly. A moon elf and a dragonborn, both hunted races across these 9 kingdoms, and now they seek to scout the city. The coming battle is fast approaching. The combined forces of the Drow, Dragonkin, and the people of Farwyde will need every chance they can get if victory can be achieved. And I accompany Azerax, son of the Drogaran line, and we go south. We journey with Derenir, commander of the Dark Wardens, with 10 of his best. The days ahead will be dark indeed. I only hope that not all darkness is an evil. I feel old now, wiser, and my pages begin to wane. I hope the words that fill the last of me are worthy of everything I owe to my friends. I hope I will honor them. I can feel the telling converging on a point in time within arm's reach, where for good or evil, this story will end. We hear thunder rolling. The blackened sky of Farwyde looks like an inverted sea roiling and crashing above the land. Lightning forks the sky. The sound of thunder is akin to the sound of hooves thundering across the landscape. We see 4 figures wrapped in cloaks and dusters, the uniform of the witch hunters. They ride as if the fear of God has been put into them. They funnel into a gully in the land. It's dotted with rocks and rabbit holes and all kinds of obstacles. And suddenly there is a crash of lightning that strikes the floor before their mounts. The horses rear up, crying out, their riders flung from the saddles into deep mud. One of the witch hunters is barely able to stagger to his feet. There is another roll of lightning. And illuminated before him is a figure. He's robed and cloaked and hooded. And he stands forth, a staff in his hand, and he says, "I've been waiting for you." Marius, you have ridden hard and you have ridden far upon your summoned steed. It is the morning of the 5th day, and still your pursuit continues. How has it felt as you have basically been riding non-stop across the land of Farwyde East to recover the phylactery?
So Marius's steed is magical, it's celestial. It's this like white horse, and it doesn't tire, but he does. So he's been like sitting on the back of it and galloping for all this time, and he's in agony from the constant jolts. He's soaked through from rain, near deafened from thunder, and he's just exhausted. He's been like sparingly using his own magic to like bring himself back to the point of awake, because often he's like slumped into the saddle, and he will like use his divine magic to lay on hands and like bring himself back to consciousness. There's no time for like resting or for stopping or even considering stopping. He like chews on dried rations and rides as fast as he can for as long as he can. He's starting to feel it now, but there's no option but to keep riding.
And it is at this point that the tracks that you have been following become more and more marred. The storm has been wetting the land, and soon it's becoming incredibly difficult to track them. And you're just beginning to wonder if you should give up hope, when all of a sudden, in the ground, there is a blade, unmistakably of a witch hunter, of the witch hunter design, essentially, where they would have been forged within Sovereign, perhaps. And it is just stuck in the ground. You have ridden into a gully. Funnily enough, the gully I just described. And sat upon a rock, looking down upon 3 dead witch hunters, sits a weaver, and he watches your approach.
He like looks around, and the horse like finally stops, and it's that strange feeling like when you've been on a motorway for 4 hours driving somewhere, and then you come to a stop for the first time. You realize that that's not how the world always is. It's just been it's just been going and going for a long, long time, and now he finally stops, and it's a little bit jarring.
For sure. Weaver basically beholds you with a strange look in his eye. He doesn't rise to his feet as you approach, but he says, "It's been a long time, Marius."
He just grunts.
Yeah. He says, "You'll forgive me if I do not stand, but I am weary from the fight."
Marius will like look around. How many were there?
4. And as you can see, there are only 3 that lie dead before him.
Shouldn't leave loose ends, Weaver.
As fast as I once was, Marius, and he sort of almost seemingly slips from the rock. You can cast a keen eye upon him, and you can see that one side of his robes are soaked with blood.
He like looks around. The one who left, did he do it on a horse?
He did not. He has fled, continued his path towards the Methanium. It is not far from here.
You know, for a long time I wanted to kill you, Weaver.
He doesn't say anything. Those reptilian eyes just lock on yours, and he doesn't react. He just watches carefully.
You betrayed me and all of us. You kept dark secrets from us for a long time. And usually that's the kind of thing that would get you killed. The others seem to be against it, but he looks around, does this pantomime. They're not here.
It is true they are not. I did not tell you the truth, and for that I am sorry. But you were our only hope. If I had told you the Lorekeepers had created the very thing, Equinox, would you have joined this journey? Would you have stayed?
The things that I have done since I've discovered your deception have been in spite of your deception. It's too late now to go back, and it's clear that the world needs me and the others. Maybe. But where I come from, not telling someone something so grave is not acceptable. Then again, every day I discover more about the order that I was from, the things they didn't tell me. Then again, I want to kill them too. But this isn't the way. He looks at the state of Weaver and how exhausted he is, that he's near death. This isn't the way that I would do it. Maybe another day when you're feeling better. This would be slaughter.
I have strength within me yet, Marius. But I suggest before you make such a decision, I should put that strength to better use. The witch hunter that you seek, he will not have got far. I saw him flee in this direction. If we can track him, we can end him.
You keep saying we, as if we're going to do this together.
I said I was going to help you, so I will.
These ones who are dead, they're amulets. Where are they?
They lie upon them still. I am no looter.
Marius will nod and go to each one and pick up the amulet, and with the strength of the dragon plate, just crush each one.
Yeah, they break away in your hand. It's almost becoming a practice maneuver now. Since you left Lost Cavalon, there have been many, or rather, when you were at Lost Cavalon, there were many witch hunter medallions that you crushed. And it always gives you a strange feeling.
You're kind, Weaver. A long time, most of my life, I hunted them, and I thought that was right. And then I went through a part of my life where I thought maybe I had been too quick to judge, and maybe that those who cast magics are not inherently evil, and that power doesn't inherently corrupt. Yet every turn, that is proven false. Every time I trust someone with powers like yours, powers like the Rogue Arcane, every time I am betrayed. They are duplicitous, almost always. This man has no horse, and I do. I will catch him and I will kill him.
Very well. Then I shall follow. But do not forget, Marius. My power is now yours now. Lyse. To your back, you feel the storm pushing east. You have traveled for many days. And before you, as you have scouted ahead, you see a sight you have not seen in some time. Freedom Salvation. the capital of Farwyde. It sits within the mountains, the Triple Peaks. But where it was once gleaming and a place of hope, a symbol, grey smoke rises in the dawn sky, and all is quiet. What's running through your mind as you look upon this place?
Lyse is saddened by the change, and her mind goes to those people that she knew within the city, those friends of the rogue arcane, friends of hers, people she ate bread with and shared a fire with. She wonders what's become of them and what might be happening inside the walls.
Taxes. You're not very far away. Whether it be the wild instincts of both you and Lyse, you had travelled sort of fanned out, as scouts would often do in uncertain territory. What's running through your mind, Tax, as you behold the city that you once visited and beheld its wonders?
It's a damn shame. It really is. I think taxes is, as he's coming up along the side, this other pathway, he sees it. And it's like the start of this journey. This place was a beacon. It was clean, pristine. They treated him negligently, at least, at first. But there's something about this place that reminds him of security and where he met his clutch for the first time. So I think he arrives pretty close to Lyse, and I think that's when he speaks up. You ready for this? When we go down there, I don't know what we're going to see.
It is impossible to know if any of Advent have overtaken the city, if they are part of the guard there, if they have overtaken any of the ruling class. It might be dangerous. For you especially, you don't exactly blend in.
I'll be fine. I'll take care of myself. I'm more concerned about you now than I have been before. So, look, just stay close, all right? We'll get through this together.
At those words, I would like both of you to make a perception check, please.
That would be a natural 20, which is, all told, 29.
In that case, you will definitely spot this first. There is a sound that would almost be imperceptible, but it's something about your moon elf instincts, your time in the forests, perhaps. You hear the sound of a broken twig. Whirling about, you both behold a figure standing behind you in a stealthy approach towards you both. And with the 22 taxes, you wouldn't have been far behind either. You behold what looks to be a humanoid figure with a large shock of red hair that sort of cascades down her back. She wears sort of leather armor, some pauldrons on her, clearly has a number of daggers upon her as well, and has clearly just been spotted by you. There is an obvious pause as everyone realizes what's just happened.
Is this a figure I recognize?
No, but taxes. I would like you to roll me a d6. If you get a 5 and a 6, you might recognize this individual.
Okay, got a 6.
Excellent. Taxes, your mind goes back to a fateful night not too long ago, where the Lorekeepers stood in defense of a little town known as Kilgannon. And within the battle, there had been a number of those that had sworn fealty to Azerax, your companion. They go by the name the Widowmakers. And while you don't know this individual's name, you know that this one was the one that would report directly to Azerax. And clearly this individual has been following you. She does not speak, but her eyes are locked on yours. You think you might detect the slight point of her ears, though she doesn't appear to be fully elven.
So I think there's this three-way standoff where we're both standing, we both turn to catch her, and I think the just slight slip of a blade comes out from my hilt, and as soon as I catch that, I raise an arm up. And it's all right. Hold on. And I just look. There's no words, just a nod. She's fine.
She gives a smile and a nod, and she looks to you both. The Gloomfather, he sent us forth to the city to begin reconnaissance. If you would come with me, I think you may recognize the tavern we're about to visit. Our vision moves south to an arid waste, far from the storm that pushes to the east. Azerax, you crest almost a dune of dust. And as you do, the landscape before you is dominated by one striking geographical feature. A spire of rock reaching into the air, and above it, a roiling black ball of magical energy. It orbits the spire. And as it does so, and as you approach, you can hear almost like this thing is crackling with power. You imagine as you get closer, it'll be much louder. How has Azerax fared on this journey with Derenir and 10 dark wardens at your back?
Azerax kicks his spurs into the horse. He's been riding in the back. It's the position that he's taken for this entire trip. For while the Dark Elves have sworn allegiance to the Lorekeepers for this battle and to the Gloomfather himself, he knows his people. He knows their penchant for treachery. And as he sees this roiling ball of blackness in the sky, he sees the legacy of his ancestors reflected back. I imagine we see it reflected in the visor of Veritor. And with a whisper loud enough for the horse to hear and perhaps the others to hear as well, yeah, he kicks the horse forward and takes the lead doing everything he can to show strength in front of these troops.
Yeah, and in wedge formation, the Dark Wardens kind of fall behind you as you lead their number. You're riding into the very shadow of this thing. It looms over you. And the thought of what lies ahead has obviously played on your mind significantly on your journey. In fact, you've barely been able to think of anything else. As you begin to approach, there is the unmistakable sight of a colossal cave opening at the very, very base of this spire. It's unlike any ordinary mountain, really. It's instead of it sort of slowly sort of increasing in steepness, it basically just juts out of the ground almost. This thing looks unnatural in a way, like it was pulled from the earth itself. And it isn't long before you and the Dark Wardens have canted up before, this huge cave entrance. Derenyr, who wears a cowl to try and prevent the light of the sun dazzling his eyes, looks at you from beneath it and says, "Gloomfather, this is a sight of foul deeds. It is because of this place that our people were laid low. What would you have of us?"
If you do not feel like coming with me, you are welcome to stay outside. Azerax says calmly as he dismounts his horse. We see the spell glove begin to glow and the telltale glow appear behind the visor of Veritor as he casts Detect Magic and begins to walk forward.
It's almost like the roiling ball of black energy is like a sun blazing about this pinnacle. Derenyr gives a nod to those in his retinue, and he slips from the saddle, and he orders some to hide the horses. They're in open, essentially it's flatlands around here, and your mounts could be discovered. So he ensures that they are put somewhere where they're at least out of line of sight, and he and 5 others follow you. "Have you any plan?" Derenyr asks.
Well, I aim to find my way to the top and figure out how this thing works. I wish I had more information than that, but it has been lost to the ages. Now, Rob, here's a question. These are like elite drow troops, motherfuckers, right?
Yes, they are.
Now, drow have the ability to innately cast darkness. Would that be something that they use in battle? I know that they can't see through it, but he would say, I guess he would say it out loud. I am not the leader of these forces, but it seems to me that shadow has always been our greatest ally. Let us wreath ourselves in darkness and creep up in case there is anything waiting for us.
Derenyr nods at the wisdom and he says, "Gloomfather, it is your word that we follow on the surface. It is what we pledged." You notice a change in Derenyr as well. I mean, I know it was obviously a very long time ago, but during the time that you had interacted with him when you're in the Underdark, he was very, he had like a superiority complex over you. And now he kind of has sort of a newfound look in his eye when he looks upon you. He obviously respects you a lot more. As you remember, you jumped off a cliff with him last session as well, so that's going to do something as well, isn't it? So yeah, they continue to follow, but so you want them to sort of like wreath themselves in darkness just to sort of protect themselves a little bit, or
I don't know if drow troops, because they can't see through it, so I don't know if that's a good idea or not, actually. But I don't know if they're trained to use it to their advantage.
Maybe that's how they hide the steeds. You know, they have to
Alright,
go and hide the steeds or something like that. But yeah, I would definitely, I would bear that in mind. I do have, yes, I had forgotten to write that down, but they can cast darkness. You're right. So, as you approach the opening of this huge cavern, it is unmistakable that there is a large stairway carved into the left side of it, and it appears to wind up into the darkness. You can hear the gentle dripping of moisture while standing within this cavern.
We'll see the ghastly sight of Azerax's severed hand familiar crawl up and hold the lens of detection over his eye as I cast True Seeing. And basically this whole way I'm going to try to investigate. I don't want to step on a glyph. I don't want to trip a tripwire or anything like that. And Azerax on silent feet will pad forward into the darkness.
Absolutely. And as you pad forward, your true sight beholds something that you find slightly unnerving. You see the trace presence of a magical presence. Something is alive in here.
Is this just so that I can visualize it? Do I see like a form, or do I see sort of like a...
Almost like magical footprints upon, maybe not upon the ground, but some kind of like trace element of magic. And what is most curious to you is, you know, the number of magical schools that exist. This particular form appears to exude all of those particular powers.
He will say out loud, he'll whisper out loud. Oh, actually, no, you know what? Drow have hand signals. Can we use Drow hand signals? Isn't that a way that they communicate?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great idea.
Yeah, so he will say, he will give the symbol for hidden danger, walk carefully, and continue on.
Now, were you heading towards the steps, or were you going into the cave?
Now, let's see, where is this trace magic?
It appears to be leading up the stairs.
Yeah, he can't help it. Azerax is curious. He can't help it. He'll go up the stairs.
You begin to ascend. Round and round you go, wheeling about this sort of spiral stair wrought into the rock. Every now and then you can see places in the left-hand side of the wall where parts of the rock has fallen out, and you can see sort of the height that you're getting. You are winding about this spire until almost the staircase takes a hard right to the point that it's leading you directly into the center. And as you do, you see a huge metal door, but it's a very particular kind of metal. It glistens strangely, almost with different colors, like looking through a prism at certain angles. And it is essentially this door that's wrought into the rock with strange carvings imbued into it.
Have I ever heard of anything like that, read it in an ancient dusty tome? Would there be any... Azerax have any knowledge of such a door?
Give me a knowledge arcana, please.
All right. I'm glad I got advantage on that, because it was a 1 and an 18 on the die.
You have a very, very good memory of reading something about this. Certain gateways and certain doors that have been constructed by the magisterium themselves. You have conducted a lot of research about their order and about the way they defend particular areas that are of magical interest to them. And this is such a place. And you expect that some kind of check or spell will be required for you to pass through.
Understood. Now, does this door also exude all of the different auras of magic?
It would appear that it has passed through this way, yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, Azerax will inspect the door carefully, attempting to see what sort of magical key would be required.
You have a little bit of a flashback where you hear the voice of Balthazar within your mind, and how you must meet a spell with its antithesis. You expect that the best course of action would be, what was it you got on the check? It was 18, wasn't it?
It was actually modified. That's a 27. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. You know that if you give it enough power, you'll be able to dispel the effect, or you could try other things. It's entirely down to you.
Understood. Azerax will hold up his spell glove. His mouth opens as if he's about to utter the incantation. But he lowers it and pushes himself to the side. Maybe there's a little cranny that he can push himself in, just in case some sort of a magical force shoots out as a secondary preventative measure. His hand reaches out of the darkness. He whispers the arcane words. The spell glove spins, and the abjuration of dispel magic shoots out towards the door.
Your spell connects with the metal surface, and it's almost like there's a ripple that runs through it. And you suspect that some kind of catalytic effect is affecting the door. And you can see these strange patterns begin to move and unwind. And suddenly this door isn't opening as if on a hinge. It is moving apart, rippling away like quicksilver, like oil upon water. It ripples away from the center and sort of forms this kind of ornate archway. And a voice says, "Welcome, Drogaron." You don't know where it came from.
Who speaks the name of my family?
Materializing before you, you see a figure. He looks decrepit and old. He wears strange, tattered robes and a huge, long beard that descends to almost his knees. And looking at you with old eyes, this individual says, "I am the arcanist. I'm who you will be needing to speak with, if we have guessed your intentions correctly."
You say we as if I should know. Your confidants. Of who do you speak?
Why, the arcane masters. We are the ones that enforced the change, the salvation. We returned light to the world, and we used your family's secrets to do so. We are indebted to you, Drogaron. Welcome. Marius, you have been riding upon your spiritual steed, and you are only riding for about 1,000 yards, maybe a bit more, before the land almost sinks away beneath you, and you can see that there is a strange broken brick structure. It looks like it used to be some kind of small watchtower. It's shattered across one side of this hill that you've ridden towards. You can see, as you've gained a bit of ground, the Methanium just in the distance, as it sits upon its island surrounded by the lake. And the tracks of the one that you follow disappear into this broken structure.
So unable to stop, he'll just like ride as hard as he can until he gets to outside of the structure, and dismount and like he'll pat the spirit steed. He'll like roll his shoulders and like try and stretch some of his aching muscles before like putting his shield on and taking his hammer out of the sling and then walking towards the house. I know you're in there.
Do you have knowledge history or anything in particular?
I do have history.
It's the only thing I can think of for this check. I'll give it a roll.
I am a noble, therefore I know history.
Aye.
A 13.
The architecture of this particular smash structure doesn't look too dissimilar to the designs found upon the Methanium.
So Marius would like maybe connect it with Lorekeeper business. Doesn't care. He cares about the man inside. So he'll like note that for a moment. He'd like say, but then just like shake his head. The man inside has to die. The phylactery has to be destroyed. And he'll like make his way forward, though he would be wary knowing that it might be magical, this building. Nonetheless, he'll like walk forward again. I've got you. Come out.
There is no sound. As you approach, you see that there is a bloody handprint upon the side of this cracked doorway that's sort of at an angle, where clearly a wounded man has leant against it to rest. But no voice returns to you from through the door.
You've made a lot of stupid mistakes. You betrayed everything that this order is about, but it's not too late to die with some honor. If I come in there, that's not how you'll die.
The wind whips up about you, blowing your cape around your dragon-forged armor. And you look with stern eyes at this doorway, and yet no voice returns.
Then I'll walk slowly towards the door, and I'll place the head of the hammer in through the doorway before I walk through it.
You absolutely do, and you notice that there is a sharp decline the second you step through the door. There is something peculiar about the way this is laid out. It looks like it's been broken down or smashed as if hit by it. Almost something very powerful would have hit this thing to have knocked it over, but it doesn't quite appear to be smashed. It almost appears to look like it was built wrong, like it's sort of on an angle. And then looking at the ground, you see the stonework. The stonework that this building is made of is almost like it's morphed out of the ground. Like perhaps this place wasn't always here.
He'll like sneer at the sorcery involved in the making of this thing. Strong dislike evident by the way he like looks around. He'll like think for a moment like, what's wrong with a nice flat surface and human laid bricks? Those buildings last just the same, but then he'll like search a little bit more closely for like any more signs of blood.
Yeah, you can see that as this room sort of diagonally goes down, you can see that there's another doorway at the other side that's open. There isn't any door in it. It's just like an open walkway, and you can see blood sort of trails in there, and you can tell. I imagine CSI Marius is sort of going into overdrive here, and you can see that this individual would have staggered in and tripped and rolled down the incline and would have hit the side of the door and kept going, desperately trying to get into shelter, desperately trying to hide.
But Marius is the Terminator, and he will not be stopped, and he'll follow you to the very ends of this earth. And so with like this methodical, sort of probably quite frightening of each like crush of the heavy armor, he'll just walk towards that doorway, being careful not to fall.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see that there is a staircase that runs down deep into the darkness. There are what appear to be broken brackets along the wall, perhaps some old torches that would have burned brightly. So there will be means for you to see if you decide to descend further.
Yeah, he'll sling the shield back onto his back and light a torch and begin the spiral staircase down.
And it isn't long before the sort of way this building works out kind of levels out, and you're in a corridor, and you can see either side. This structure is kind of juxtaposed. It has these beautiful carvings on each side of the wall of figures clasping what look to be powerful tomes in their hands, swirling energies surrounding them. You can see that there is a particular carving of a mountain with one figure standing almost hovering above the mountain, his arms outreaching like that, power radiating from his hands. It isn't difficult to see that these are carvings of old Lorekeepers from long ago, and that imagery is juxtaposed by just the ruin, the beauty of these carvings and the ruin that is before you. You can see this corridor sort of like widens out, and there is just this vast circular chamber with a single sort of gantry that goes out above what looks to be a large pit. And at the very end, sort of like leaning against the side of the gantry, you can see the figure of a witch hunter, and it doesn't appear to be moving.
Marius will like look at all these paintings and like shake his head, and this is why, like, when you glorify your own power with paintings and statues, when you glorify how marvelous and godlike you are, that's what leads you to make an equinox. That's what leads you to make or a medal in things that are beyond mortal power. And he'll like shake his head at it as he like makes his way down and finds the body of this man. He'll immediately like search for the amulet. And like just pull it.
Yep, you pull his amulet from his neck. He stirs as you do so, and he almost tries to make a weak attempt to stop you from crushing it, but he isn't even able to reach you. He isn't even able to lift himself off the floor to try and make any real attempt to stop you. And he just gives out a low groan and slides further down one of the railings of this gantry leading out over the big hole. And he just fixes you with an evil glare. Blood pouring from him still.
He's clearly like unable to defend himself, so I'll just search him while he's still conscious. And if he like starts to mess with me, I'll just like backhand him with the plated gauntlet.
Yeah, he does try and stop you, and yeah, a firm strike across the face prevents that from bothering you further. You see that he has what any normal witch hunter would have on him. He has a number of different rations. He has like a map of the particular area that's been rudimentarily drawn onto parchment. He has a number of daggers. He has a witch hunter blade upon him, and no phylactery.
Marius will like search and then realize that it's not here, and then he'll like pick the man up by the front of his like breastplate and like hold him over the edge of the pit, which is like not possible for a normal person, but this dragon forged armor imbues him with dragon strength. Just hold him over the edge of it. Is it down there?
Made a pretty show of riding east so far. He gives this vile cough, because while he is injured, while he knows he's going to die, he now understands that he has drawn you east, where perhaps the phylactery does not lie.
Marius will like curse and spit on the ground. I've fallen for it. Damn. You've got me. Where has it gone?
Far away.
Well, this is the moment of your victory.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Sextonheim.
And where will he rise? Where will they take it? It's too late for me to do anything.
They've gone to a teleport field. They will have been extracted already. They will be far from here. Perhaps even the capital. Sovereign.
Yes, that would make sense. And this teleport field, where is it?
It is, and he stops. And he smiles. I don't think so.
What, do you think I'm going to go after them, teleport after them to Sovereign? It's a suicide mission.
Why would you know? Why would you want to know?
It's part of me. I have to go and see it and know.
You know nothing, Exelame.
Maybe. And he'll like bring him back onto the gantry and like drop him, and then he's gonna like break his knee with the hammer.
The scream just echoes off every surface.
Then he will lay on hands and heal the broken knee, and then break it again. Where is the teleport field?
South.
He's going to pick him up and throw him in the pit and run back upstairs.
As you turn, you see a familiar sight standing before you. Someone has followed you into this place. Bears a blood red cloak, a terrifying black and white mask, and a blazing golden eye. At the end of the corridor, Marius stands Equinox, and he stalks towards you. And that is where we're going to take a brief moment to say hello and welcome to Performance Check. My name is Rob, and this is the Lorekeepers, Chapter 17, A Wandering Sun. And as you can probably tell, a little bit different. We have a 3-party split. It requires a lot of concentration. I can't just let you guys talk, really, because you're all split up. I suppose, Lyse and taxes, which we'll be back to next. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a brief introduction. We're going to take a very short break, and then we shall continue. And I think today's introductions will begin with Taylor.
Hey everyone, I'm Taylor. I'm playing Lyse. I am continually surprised by Rob and his plot twists in Lorekeepers, and I never know what he's going to say next, and I also never want to get on Lloyd's bad side, because damn!
Yeah, it's worrying sometimes. Don't mess with Lloyd when he's ill. Speaking of, let's talk to Lloyd now. How you doing, man?
Terrible. I'm ill, but I'm glad to be here. Very enjoyable. And I can't wait to 1v1 Equinox and die.
For sure. That's going to be fun. And Chad, how you doing, my man?
Doing great. So far, this 3-party split thing working perfect. Thanks, Rob. This is great, man. I'm so glad to be back with family and just like doing good stuff. This is so much fun already from the get-go. So I cannot wait to see what the rest of the session has.
Thanks, man. And finally, Lucreus, my man.
God damn, it's been a long time, but man, now I remember why I love this game so much. There's a lot of reasons, but like Taylor said, those plot twists, I'm like, when they happen, I'm like, it's like a Highlander must feel when they cut off the head of another Highlander. That's what it feels like to me, like the fucking quickening in my body. It's amazing. I'm excited to be back, if you couldn't tell.
Oh man, I'm excited to be back too. I was very nervous about this though. I'm very nervous about the split, but it seems to be all right so far. We'll see. Okay, guys, have a very brief break, and we will be back ever so shortly. Stay tuned. I've returned. So, I just realised I didn't open the old chat, the chatette. So, what are our thoughts, guys? Oh, chat's back as well.
It feels good to be back. That's what I'm thinking. It's like it's like Ozzy said when Black Sabbath hadn't played in a long time and they got back. He said, "Oh, the fucking fuck it all." No, he said it's like
That was a good impression, actually. That was really good.
He said it's like an old shoe. It fits. It's like an old shoe. It fits. It feels good. You put it on. You're like, yeah, this is what's up right here.
It's also ragged and been through the mill.
It's also bust up.
It's busted up. It's busted to shit.
During
Okay.
the break, I was planning my eulogy for Marius because
I'm gonna
most
die.
likely this dude.
You're gonna
This dude.
die.
I love you, but we'll see.
Unless
So
you're
you're-
run, but not Marius.
You're level 9 now. It's gonna be fine. Let us
Tricks.
return. He's got some tricks. He's always got some tricks. Let us return then. Let us continue. Lease and taxes. You've begun your approach towards Freedom Salvation. And as you draw closer, you see the grey pillars of smoke rising high. Though different to the smoke that you've seen above Freedom Salvation before, this is not caused by some disastrous fire that spread through the city, like when you were last here. This appears to be the smoke of industry. And as you draw closer and closer, this Widowmaker sort of turns to you both and says, they have been working hard. Advent's forces within the city, there aren't as many as the main body of their force, but they have press ganged a massive amount of the citizens of the city into construction. They are building.
The building.
I do not know. It is a vast structure within the center of the mountain crown. And you might remember the mountain crown is the citadel that lies at the summit of the city that sort of branches up as it goes, or rather builds up as it is built into the mountain. They are funneling the stone's blood oil.
I think taxes at that point speaks up because he knows what that can do. Do you know where they're funneling it to? Where are they taking it?
It seems like it's being deposited into several drums throughout the city. but the main destination would appear to be this structure within the mountain crown. Taxes, you maybe get like a vague recollection of this individual's name. You would have maybe seen her discussing things with Azerax. Maybe when he was giving orders for them to go north to Freedom Salvation. This individual is known as Violet. And she has like a concerned look in her eye, but like she's obviously been told to await the arrival of the Lorekeepers, and has obviously recognized you, at least, Taxes. You appear to be going towards a familiar looking tree. It is the tree from beneath which there is a passageway that leads, as you recall, to the Bleeding Stone, the tavern.
And as they sort of sneak in through this place, it is all too familiar and all too the same, and at the same time, all different. Taxes is taking in everything. He's kind of peering through the wood slats of, you know, anything, the stonework, any wood slats that are there that he can see through, just peering through to see how many soldiers to civilians, how many casualties would there be if something horrific went down. And yeah, that's basically what he's doing on the walk. He's kind of quiet, but just surveying.
It is unnervingly quiet. You don't really see many people. You estimate that any forces of Advent that are about would be behind the walls. Obviously, that is their major tactical advantage at this stage, that they have essentially a citadel keep from which to defend against any of your attempts. And it seems, however, that the entrance to this tree appears unguarded. It is very well hidden. Lyse, what are your instincts telling you? What's running through your mind as this Violet character basically stops short of this tree?
What assurance do we have to know where your loyalties are, madam?
I can give you none, other than your companion, Azerax, gave me purpose, gave us all purpose. If it wasn't for him and a friend here, she motions at Taxes, we would all be dead. But that is the only reassurance I can grant you. If you wish, I can leave.
No, Azerax has a way with words, and it should not surprise me to hear that he has so motivated someone. How many of you are there?
There are enough. 10 of us.
Have you learned anything of the size of the force? Numbers?
2,000 strong.
City? Inside?
2,000 strong, yes. With many more on the way. The destruction, or at least part of the destruction of the Cloud March, could have slowed them, but it won't be long. And it is not a long march through the mountains to this place.
Have you information of others, a resistance perhaps? The people of Farwyde, the people of Freedom Salvation, are not easily subjugated.
They are not. There are whispers that moved among the slaves and the conscripts that have been forced into working for Advent. There are murmurings, and like embers we stoke them.
I have more questions, but we should move on. And as they talk, Lyse would gather information about if it's just the able-bodied, where are the children being kept if they're not being forced into labor? Are there sick that are elsewhere? Are people just dropping dead in this construction? What are people doing with the bodies? And trying to get a sense of where the flow in and out and how the movement goes of the civilians inside the city versus who's stationary and where the forces are, where they might sleep, where they eat. Trying to get a good sense of where everything is and how it moves.
Certainly. So as Violet explains this to you, she begins the passage into the crawl space beneath the tree. And as you move, she begins to explain how Freedom Salvation has essentially been cordoned off into camps almost. Civilians pressed into service are forced to sleep in one mass area of the camp where I imagine Lyse would have stepped forth in. She has been to Freedom Salvation, as we've discussed. She has been there, so you would know that the outer limits of the city would be poorer areas. It would seem that all of the camps have been sort of erected in there, basically all along the outsides of the city, and workforces are basically pushed back and forth regularly with a timetabled efficiency where they are forced to work, and those that are not forced to work have had weapons pressed into their hands and forced to guard those that work for them as well.
And is there a sense of a head count? Could someone slip in among these workers unnoticed?
We're talking about essentially half of the population that weren't slaughtered in Advent's initial attack. More than 2,000, admittedly, but nowhere near as well trained, provisioned, or as healthy.
Rob, I think taxes, as they sort of begin the descent into this tree, I think he takes a moment before he goes underneath to look at the skies. There's this odd, you see him, Lyse, if you're even looking at him as we're having conversations back and forth, every so often he'll take a look at the skies. He'll just peer up, kind of looking, gazing, and then go back to conversation or go back to whatever. It's almost like he's timing something, waiting for something like a response.
Absolutely. And though your keen eyes scan the sky, you do not see anything. Not yet. And it isn't long journeying through these tunnels that finally you start moving through what look to be ruined parts of sewers and parts of the city that have been built on top of the remains. I once described Freedom Salvation as the present stacked up on top of the past. So you're going through the old, ancient parts of the city that have been buried beneath new work. And then finally you see an old wooden kind of trapdoor that taxes you would recognize, where you had all stolen away the day Prince Artoon fell to flick the doppelganger's blade. And with ease, Violet hops up onto a large rock, pulls a sort of a rope thing, and it swings open, and she basically leaps up into the floor above. Come on, she says.
Lyse will follow easily, gracefully, and then turn to watch with mild interest to see how Taxus fares.
Both of these live elven creatures have gingerly gotten into this trapdoor, and I think it's like the equivalent of watching a honey badger try to like dig his way through a hole. He doesn't look like he would quite fit, but it's like and then he kind of clambers his way up through the trapdoor, his hands kind of pushing his weight up through the hole in the floor, rather than actually like letting the latch, kind of swing back shut.
Yeah, as you are pulling yourself up, Violet just dispassionately just stares at you as you're pulling. It's not so much that you can't. That obviously, as previous sessions have shown us, you can serpentine, you can crawl up walls, but perhaps this space is a bit too small for you to cleanly climb through in one go. But then you were in the Bleeding Stone Tavern, and it is now caked in dust and broken bar stools, and there doesn't appear to be anyone inside currently. Violet stares at you and says, "Well, I have performed my duties. Azerax told me to expect you, and I have delivered you. What would you have of me?"
I think Taxes would look to Lyse to see what she would want out of like leadership. Just kind of seeing like, what do you want to do first, and then from there I'll take the next crack at it.
Lyse is thinking. There are 10 of you. At least 2 need to fall in with the people of Freedom Salvation. See what they're building. We must know.
We have already made sure that one of our number went to the Mountain Crown to see what the main structure's purpose is, but we've not heard from them. And as there are so few of us, there are many districts of this city, Moonelf.
If you will not go, then I will. But we must know what we are facing.
Many Silver Guard, and it would seem the best trained are centered either upon the walls looking out or at that place. And she moves across the tavern to look out of one of the cracked windows. And you can see, like, through the smoke that rises above the structures that surround this particular tavern in the Merchants District, I believe it is. You can see that there is large scaffold and sort of pillars of industry, like working at creating this large cylindrical kind of building that sort of rises above the wall of the main keep of Freedom Salvation.
If you are unwilling to go, I understand. Fear is natural. But I will go.
She gives you like a very long look with narrowed eyes. I have no place for fear. Not anymore. Advent has cost us all dearly. And I insist on repaying them in kind.
Then start. 2 of you. Always in pairs, if you can.
What would you have us do?
Go in, work a single day, find out what they're building. Get a size, get numbers of what's inside. What are they using? What are they using the oil for? Why do they need it? How is the condition of the people inside? Would they fight if pressed?
It will be done. And she goes and she stops, but before she reaches the door and turns around and says, "What about you? What are you going to do?"
Knowingly, he looks to Lyse. I can't exactly blend in around here.
You would make a very cute kitty cat. And you could walk wherever you pleased.
Problem is, if we get into any sort of scraps or get found, I can't exactly claw them to death from that point, now can I?
How should I put it? Most cats might have 9 lives. You would only have 1 before you returned to your true form.
All right, fine.
He takes a long time to think about it because he's not wanting to do it, but he's thinking, there's no way I can get around this city and not get spotted, right? So,
well, actually, Taxes, and it's been a long time, so I'm going to remind you. You acquired a ring fairly
I did,
recently,
sir. Never mind.
which camouflages you. So you might not need to lose your dignity and become a small cat.
A small animal.
If you still want to, you're more than welcome.
Now that you reminded me, I forgot that was on my character sheet. So yeah,
you've got this sort of chameleon ring thing now.
He's gingerly tapping his fingers along the broken bar counter, and then he remembers that silver clink of the Talon ring.
Go with her. I'll be fine. I'll be keeping watch. Don't worry.
And I think with that, he slides his Talon ring along the wood, right? And then as they're heading out, he starts getting closer toward the shadows, and then it just sort of blends into the background. So you basically just see the end of the tail dissipate into nothingness as he walks out the other direction.
Lyse, what is it that your intention is exactly at this point?
Lyse would return her attention to Violet. Would you have me go with you? Or are you capable of such reconnaissance on your own?
I'm capable. She snaps almost too quickly. She's much younger than you, but she clearly has a bit of a chip on her shoulder about that. You saying that in that way. She says, "Do as you please. You can come with me if you want." And you can't quite tell if that's a "yeah, please come with me" or a "I don't care." You know.
If I have not heard from you by this time tomorrow, I will come searching for you.
Azerax. This figure stands before you, decrepit, and he turns and begins walking into the center of this chamber that the door has melted away from. And you can see this dial, this black marble dial, sort of built into the floor. It has 8 points that jut from it, and you can see a swirling magical force almost appearing to follow the orbit of the vast magical power that you can now see spinning around you from broken bits in the mountain. You have climbed very high, almost to its peak.
For a moment, Azerax just gazes at this. This is ingrained in his lineage. He knew it would be magnificent, but he never thought that he would gaze upon an arcane marvel of this sort. He shakes his head, adjusts the lens of detection, the gem of seeing, over his eye to make sure that what he's seeing is real before stepping forward.
Yeah, so that was the what of seeing. Sorry, mate, I missed that a little bit.
I keep calling it the lens of detection, but I think it's called a gem of seeing.
Gem of seeing, that's right. Yeah, which gives you true sight, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, once again, you see that there is a massive amount of magical energy anchoring this it's essentially this insanely powerful collection of all different magical forces combined into locking this thing in one place. And you imagine its anchor is here within this chamber. And it appears to sort of like never break that circumference. It's a perfect circle around the sphere that this thing basically revolves around.
Azerax feels that coldness in his gut, the fear, but he knows how to overcome it. So he straightens his back and, with a flare of his spider silk cloak, he strides into the chamber to inspect this. Are there any other figures other than this one arcanist there?
No, he appears to be on his own. And as you step in, he sweeps sort of that raggedy, horrible-looking cloak around him. And as you look at him, like it's almost like you can see through him. He's only half there, half transparent. This strange, magical presence that looks at you with kind of cruel, jesting eyes.
Arcanist, that is the name you go by, yes?
It will do.
Do you have a preference? For my name is Azerax, as I'm sure you know, but I'm also known as the Gloomfather. I've grown quite accustomed to it. So please tell me what I should call you.
The Arcanist is fine. And your name, yes. Your customs. Tell me, what do you make of the Drogaron legacy? This is the site of their betrayal. And they turned your people to us.
What is to be said when the order of things is perverted? Sometimes it takes someone with the power to change the world to actually step up and change the world. You speak of the council. Are they within you? Are you an amalgamation of various people? He leans in close to him. He feels the fear, he feels the thrumming, but he overcomes the fear. He gets close. His eyes narrow. What are you?
I chose the form best suiting for your arrival. A powerful wizard, perhaps, with knowledge known by only a few. This is your trial, Drogaron. This is your test. Have you traveled all this way? Have you fought the battles you fought? Only to see your work crumble around you. Will you unmake the work of your family, their sacrifice that cost them their lives? Are you willing to make that mean nothing?
The words hang heavy in the air. You are a being of great power, clearly. And while I may not be as old as you, I'm not as young as I look. I have walked the surface of the world. I have traveled through the 9 kingdoms. I have journeyed deep to my homeland, as my family caused me to be cast out as a pariah. I have bargained with creatures of great power. I have faced enemies that the storybooks do not do justice. And I have learned something in my travels. I've learned that those with power have the ability to change the world. That is what I'm going to do. So, what is his test?
Take a point of inspiration, Lucas. You are right. It takes those with the power and the will to change the world. And that is what will be tested first. His eyes glow a deep black. And for a second, his transparent form almost seems to shift. And you can see the bone, you can see his skull and ribs beneath the robes. And I would like you to perform a wisdom saving throw, please.
I will use that point of inspiration you just gave me.
Excellent. Very timely.
It's not very good. That is a 10.
You feel a shiver of fear run up your spine. Your mind goes back to a point in time where you had been involved in a scuffle within the catacombs of Talazan. And you'd witnessed bullying and the cruelty that only children can possess. And then you feel a warm hand upon your shoulder and you turn and you look up into your mother's eyes. And she smiles at you. My son. My son. And she reaches out and touches her hand to your cheek as you take 13 points of psychic damage. And you are hurled through shadow and darkness. The blackness from the seal begins to swirl about you. And through the darkness, you hear the arcanist's voice. If it is darkness you want, drow, it'll be the only thing you find. Marius. At the end of the corridor, Equinox is stalking towards you, his red cloak billowing behind him. And in his hand, the power of the telling courses through him, a gleaming golden blade in his hand, and he stands waiting.
This is where, like a normal person would stand and wait for Equinox to make a speech, or where Marius would say something clever, but Marius doesn't say anything clever. He mutters the incantation of haste and can cast it upon himself, and he rushes at Equinox and is going to try and make 3 attacks.
As you make your first attack, your hammer passes directly through him, and the image of him dissipates. Behind him at the end of the corridor, you see Weaver, his hand pressed against one of the walls. And you can see golden light emanating from his palm and it sort of ripples like blood through veins. And he says, "These walls tell a story." He's caught up with you and he's descended, and he says, "I had not known this place was here." Displaced from the Mythanium. You can see how it's re-entered our reality here, and he points out where the warped parts of the wall and the floor are and stuff. He was here.
Marius is almost disappointed. He thought this would be a chance to cut the head off the snake finally. And then he sees Weaver and he just rolls his eyes. And how does that help us? How does this help us achieve our task?
Our enemy has a goal. He has a drive. Every action he would have thought out. Why here? Why this ruin? And he looks around, and his eyes fall upon the hole with the gantry above it. And he sort of begins to hobble his way past you. He's still clutching his side as he walks by. This is an echo chamber. It is like the Law Gate, a place that you can witness certain moments within the telling. And he looks down into the hole. It is inactive now, but at some time it would have been a masterpiece, a wonder.
At some time. Not now, Marius says, looking at him. What about now?
He turns around and he just stares at you and he says, "All this time, whilst you were journeying across this land, I have been putting my time to good use. And I've been trying to devise a way he can be stopped. I have tried my best to track his movements and to see if there's any pattern in the way he moves and what he is doing. You have fought him before, Marius, and so have I. And you and I both know it's going to take something unique to put an end to him."
Marius nods, but looks around the place and says to Weaver, "Figuring out that unique thing is not my task."
Yes, it is. You are a lawkeeper. And like me, we share a power. We can look into the telling. As I said, these walls tell a story. Let us continue to map his path. Let us see where he has gone. Let us find out what he has been doing.
The witch hunters, they took the phylactery. They went to a teleportation circle in the south somewhere.
How many days head start would they have now, Marius?
I don't know. Surely with your... He waves his hand sort of non-committally, not willing to say whatever thing he thinks Weaver has. You could bring us there.
I do not know an exact location to go, but it is right. Perhaps we can do both, if we work quickly.
He thinks about it, sucks in his teeth. All right.
Very well. But be mindful of telling as many secrets, and not all of them are good. And he sort of limps out onto the gantry, and he looks down into the deep well, a well of memory. And he reaches out with a hand, and you can see once again that green light sort of flowing through the walls like blood through veins. And then again, you see Equinox's visage standing where you had put your hammer through him. And now your nemesis strides forth with malice in every step. And you watch him walk past Weaver and stand on the very brink, looking down into the pit, into the darkness. And then his eye grows brighter and brighter and brighter. And then soon the room is filled with yellow blazing light. Equinox sends a burst of energy deep into the darkness. And you see shapes of a memory, shapes of a conversation long past that happened many years ago. You can hear a slight change in Equinox's voice when he speaks. It reminds you of the time that you had witnessed his origin within the Methanium. He is not as angry or malevolent. The words cannot quite be made out. There is another pulse of energy as Equinox feverishly, angrily, it seems, is trying to destroy this memory, is trying to rip it out of the fabric of the telling itself. And then all is dark. Weaver sort of looks down at the hole and then looks directly at you, Marius. It would seem that Equinox wants to hide something.
The weakness.
Perhaps. And he looks very worried. And you can't really tell why.
There's more, isn't there? It would be natural for one such as you to have the truth revealed and then continue to not share all that isn't relevant. There's more. There must be things you're still keeping from us. Smell it.
He turns and he goes to open his mouth, and then you hear a from the blackness of the pit. And there is a growling, guttural noise, and a wind whips up around you, Marius, as you and Weaver turn about. Rising from the darkness, you see smoke, roiling blackness, pulling itself from the telling. It would seem that Equinox has left a contingency. Lyse, you are being guided towards this structure, this vast structure that reaches into the sky in the central courtyard of the Mountain Crown. Taxes, would you have been following whilst camouflaged? So you're sort of keeping your eye on them, but from maybe the rooftops, or?
Yeah, that's exactly what the theory was. I think I'm actively like clambering on rooftops, kind of trying to keep myself up high enough to see, but away from the crowds below, so that I'm not like drawing like severe attention on the ground.
For sure. Violet is seemingly pulling a cloak around herself tightly, like that. An old tatty thing, and looks curiously to you, Lyse. I don't mean any offense by this, but you don't really blend in that well either. I mean, look at you.
Then go. Go quickly and quietly. Speak little, listen much. Count. Pay attention to every detail.
I shall sow the seeds of an uprising. It is what we were born to do.
Sow
And
them
she-
subtly.
Yeah, she does like a half step, and you say that, and she stops, and then she just gives you like a nod, and then whips about and continues in that direction.
Lyse will pick up a little bit of the dirt from and kind of ash and soot from the ground, rub her hands, and then just blow a little, and she seems to fade almost from view. She's still visible, but she's just passed without trace, and will begin doing her own reconnaissance, moving through different districts, trying to count and see how many are on the walls, and if she can see their movements, and what the rotation is for the guards, and how often they change, and
Sure.
get a sense of that type of thing.
There is you're able to tell with a city this size, 2,000 is spread quite thin. It's enough to make a defense, but it would be a skeleton force that would be doing so, as well as obviously trying to contain the people within the city. If such an attempt was made to stir up the conscripts and the slaves that have been press ganged into working, you estimate it could be effective, but they are well armored and well armed and relatively well trained in comparison to the normal citizens, shall we say.
Is there like barracks that they are staying in, a mess hall, a water source that they use, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. You actually come into the main plaza, or one of the main plazas of the merchant district, which is sort of right next to where the slums are. There would have been a time a long time ago where the Lorekeepers had stood here and listened to a demagogue rattle off some kind of insane speech about Advent when they first arrived within the city. And it is here now that there is a large amount of slaves that are being brought back from the construction sites and being replaced. You can see they are being rested for a short while to increase their efficiency. Tells you this tale. Sorry, go
Are
ahead.
the soldiers also here, or do they have another location?
So mainly conscripts, people that have obviously been given weapons and told, look, if you work for us, you'll be able to be on our side, essentially, as long as you control these other people. Control through fear. But Silver Guard also. There are Silver Guard to be seen.
Can we find where they are staying? I presume they're separate from the people.
The Silver Guard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so not too far away, actually. You can see that there are a number of different barrack sites that sort of line the secondary circle of the city. So they would be quite close to where the slums are, but also close enough to the citadel to be able to like protect it as well if they need to be called out quickly. So there are a number of different structures you can go to where you can see troops moving in and out.
Yeah, I think that's most of what Lisa's doing, at least for a few days. Moving about, taking in numbers. She'll go back to this tavern, this decrepit, dilapidated building, and you'll see in the dust and in the dirt there begins to form a small city map that she's drawing and using bits of debris as buildings and key points, and making notes. She's not a warrior, she's not a tactician, but she is a problem solver, and this is a puzzle, and it must be solved properly to let the balance right itself.
As Sorry, just as you are going ahead and doing that, I will say that you probably won't have been working for days, just so we can stay on a similar time scale to what's going on elsewhere in the game. But you can absolutely have drawn up like a fairly accurate picture with like some work. However, as you re-enter the Bleeding Stone, Taxes, I would like you to make a perception check. Lyse, I would like you to make a perception check with disadvantage. What was that again? Sorry.
16 for me.
Again, I didn't hear it.
16.
Thank you very much. Enunciation. No, I'm just kidding. Taxes. You see it first. From around the corner, 4 figures are approaching the Stone's Blood Tavern. They appear to be bedecked in silver armor and look very reminiscent of silver guards, but they are incredibly bulky. They have long black capes that flow over their shoulders, and they appear to be making a direct beeline for the tavern.
Inside now. Get to cover. Hide as best you can. They don't look like Silver Guard, but they don't necessarily look like they're going to be willing to greet us anytime soon.
At least we'll stay back as directed and watch from a distance to see what these figures do.
So you both, so just so I'm aware, are you both like sort of like hiding in the tavern? You're going to try and both hide?
I would. That's what I would like to do. I would rather than standing out in the open, I would like to go into the tavern. If they're planning on coming in, I'd just like to hear their conversation and kind of be able to stealth and spy on that conversation rather than try to directly have conversation with them.
So are we already inside when this is happening, when we see them coming?
Well, I imagine Taxes was outside and you were inside. I imagine Taxes was still on the roof, as that's where we left him.
Looking like a gargoyle, probably.
Yeah,
and then, like,
you've been sort of like following Lyse, like on the rooftops, maybe,
Yep.
sort of like keeping bird's eye.
And then as I see them, I slink down and you hear this like rap on the door, like, hey, let me in. We're gonna, like, they're coming. We need to hide. We need to get prepared. Like, let's bunk up and get ready for anything crazy. I don't know what these guys are.
I'd like you to make a stealth check with advantage, please, Chad, because you will be dropping into their field of view. You are camouflaged, so they are going to attempt to see if they can spot you. The first time I've rolled dice today.
Sorry, the camouflage gives me +10, correct?
No, it gives you advantage on stealth checks.
Advantage on stealth. Okay, that's right. Advantage on stealth checks. So
that's okay.
And that would be 17 then.
So 3 of them are oblivious to your presence, Taxes. One of them at the back, however, physically sort of jumps back a little as he sees almost like light distortion, like the Predator moving through terrain. It sees something moving across the door and draws a large greatsword. The others turn and then they instinctively pull out those large blades and start stalking towards you. My friends, we're going to roll initiative and then take a short break. 3-way battle is about to commence. Be right back. And I'm back. I see Rob Daniels is watching. Hello, thank you for dropping by. Kevin Wilson also. 2 episodes behind, so can't stay and watch, but glad to have it back. Oh, hey, man.
What's up? Oh, I was just saying what's up with you to the chat people. That's awesome.
It's cool, man.
Can I say that this is my favorite party split ever? Like a 3-way party split. You know what it feels to me? Because like being a player in it, I have like the moments of just sitting back and those popcorn moments while everybody's doing their thing. And I realize it feels like a fucking like a Game of Thrones episode or something where, you know, we know these different characters well now. And so when they're off doing their own thing, it's like cut from this scene, cut to this scene, cut to this scene. And even though they're not connected right now, the whole narrative is working together. It's just great, man. I love it.
Thanks, man. It's nice to see them operate together. It does mean I do a lot of talking though, as I'm beginning to realize. But anyway, just to explain them, because we're still waiting for Chad, but this is how we're going to be doing this. And I'll explain to those watching as well. Essentially, we're going to be dividing the initiative per the player's initiative. So as we jump to Marius, we're going to see him. As we jump to Taxes and Lyse, we'll be seeing their combat. And then finally with Azerax, we're going to be seeing what's going on with him. We are all back. So we return to the memory well. And Marius, you are looking down at an abomination that is rising on a pillar of smoke. This foul creature is a thing of shadow. It has long, curling black horns, long, reaching, shadowy arms, and it gives a gasping as it rises before you. Weaver is staggering back, aghast at the sight of this thing, and he recognizes this creature. He bellows, "Nightwalker of the Abyss!" Marius, it is your turn as this creature begins to rise towards you with a threatening, spindly hand.
Okay, so Marius, in his usual sort of, he's not incapable of fear, he just like is capable of controlling it. And so he like sees this thing, it's obviously a threat, but he like starts to like think and prioritize. And so as it's like rising, he will cast haste on himself, which I would have done against Equinox, but I think it's okay to say I didn't.
That's fine, don't worry, man.
He'll cast haste on himself, and then he will attack 3 times. I've pre-rolled all of these. The lowest was a 26 to hit.
Well, you're just going to hit him 3 times, aren't you?
One of them was a crit of the 3, because I also would swear my oath of vengeance upon this thing as a bonus action. With haste, I get an extra attack, and so it is going to be 50 bludgeoning damage and 86 radiant damage from the 3 attacks. For a total of 136 damage.
Oh my god, 136 damage. I'm gonna... Oh my god. Okay, so describe your attacks as you lunge forth as this thing is rising out of the pit towards you.
So he like incants this this spell to himself, and he just like it's like moving at this like preternatural speed, and he's able to like dart in under a claw and like swing up with the hammer, and then he's like over the other side of it, and with the second and then the third, he like leaps back up into the air, and with this insane like strike smashes it down upon the creature. These 3 blasts of like bright light that smash it in 3 different places, and he'll like land back on the ground and like raise his shield, waiting for what's to come.
Your radiant energy is ripping through the shadow as it reaches its tendril-like fingers towards you. This creature is being beaten back in a tremendous fashion as your attacks ring out thunder across it. Your blazing pure light pouring into this creature, and it gives a... and it almost recoils back clearly having underestimated the power of the Lorekeeper before him. Weaver is up next. I forgot to put him into the initiative order. He will go after the Nightwalker. If you wouldn't mind amending that, that would be great. Thank you. Weaver is going to reach into the air, and you see that there is a clap of thunder that rings out through the hall, and a jet of blazing lightning explodes forth from his palm, and it connects firmly with the Nightwalker. And it gives another shriek. The Nightwalker, while it is damaged badly by Weaver, its full focus is upon you, Marius, as I'm going to ask you to first give me a dexterity saving throw.
Because I am hasted, I have advantage on dexterity saving throws.
Yes, you do.
And my dex save is 5. It'll be 17 is what I get.
There is a blast of shadowy energy that ripples towards you, but you're able to hurl yourself out of the way, only taking half of the damage that you would take. Let me see. That would be 14 points of necrotic damage. Tears through your body as you were barely able to hurl yourself out of the way. And then it lunges forth once again, this shadow just pushing it forward with a speed unnatural to a creature of its size. And it is going to go and it's going to try and swipe at you. What is your AC, please, Marius?
22.
It connects once. For 12 points of slashing damage as the shadowy claws just rake past your defenses and you are staggered back. Taxes in Freedom Salvation, you see that these Silver Shock troops are charging the door of the tavern that you are standing in. What do you do?
Well, I don't want to...
Is it me?
No, it's him.
Nope.
Yeah, it's him, not you.
Oh my
Oh
god.
no!
Uh-oh.
Oh dear. I mean, I'm sort of secretly pleased it's not me as well. Like, it's always me. And I've made some changes to my computer to hopefully stop that from happening. Hopefully we will get Chad back in a moment then. Oh, but they're charging him. I'll tell you what, I'll just roll their attacks because they're just going to go for him. They can't see Lyse. You're
I
in
could
fun.
take his spot.
No, it's their turn first. So 2 of them are going to swipe at him. He's in the doorway, so only 2 of them are going to be able to get him through the doorway. But I don't know his armor class. Okay, Lyse, you go first. You go first.
So Lisa's going to prepare ready a spell, and as soon as Taxes has moved away from these guys, if he's backing up further into the tavern, she will cast Entangle at the door, and the ground right outside the door will begin to become all these vines, and they'll have to make strength saving throws as they run inside or be restrained. You're muted, Rob.
What's the DC?
17.
Sorry, thank you. Three of them fail, one of them succeeds. The one at the head, I'm going to say, is the charging. Maybe he gets just in front of the spell. The others get enveloped as visors wrap from between the cobbled stones about them. So they are restrained.
Yeah, on their turn, they can use an action to try and break free again.
Excellent. Okay. One is going to just take a swing at Taxes. I'm going to just take a guess. 18? I think his AC's 18. I'm just going to say it is. Takes a swing, but is unfortunately unable to connect with the Dragonborn. He does not roll particularly well. The others are going to try. Is it the same? 17? Yep. Oh, Jesus. And a critical fail from the final one. So one of them basically falls over and is basically fully enveloped by these vines that are just wrapping around him from just nowhere. And the others are just desperately trying to escape, but their great swords are too big. They can't get a good enough swipe on a vine as they're wrapped around them too closely. Excellent. We're going to continue. We're just going to have to keep moving. Azerax, high within the spire, you see two shadowy figures approaching you, and they have a familiar scent. It's like an awakened memory, something in the recesses of your mind. For a second, it almost looks like your parents standing before you, but in shadow. What do you do?
Azerax feels this stab and icy pain stabbing into his mind. Down on one knee, he shakes his head. He looks up. You dare use an effigy of my parents against me? You dare attempt to turn the shadows upon me? I am Shadow. I am the Gloom Father. As he reaches underneath his cloak, we see him pull out a small pouch. He throws it up into the air. The contents unfurl and spill out. It's diamond dust. He steps forward through it. It sprinkles onto his body as I cast non-detection on myself. You want to play games in the shadow? Find me if you can. And he will pull out his rapier like a badass and just stand there.
So that's amazing. And I really wish I knew what non-detection does.
Non-detection means that I should have fucking cast it before I came into the place, but it works out narratively. So for the duration, you hide a target from divination magic. The target can be a willing creature. The target can't be targeted by any divination magic or perceived through magical scrying senses. So I imagine Azerax is just this motherfucker's trying to make the shadows come around him. Azerax is out like a light.
And they are absolutely 100% using magic to try and find you. So yeah, you just vanish. And the arcanist, who's sort of just standing there, this hollow sort of floating spectre, like being from the astral planes, eyes sort of narrow. And the two shadows that stalk before him are going to reach out with tendrils and are just going to strike out an area. I'm going to roll a d6. If I get a 6, it's the area that you're standing in. 1. You see this blast of sort of almost sonic energy. This huge sonic blast radiates through part of the chamber that you're in at the top of the spire, and doesn't affect you in any way. You do see, however, the part of the pillars that are holding up this part of the spire begin to shake, and you see rocks beginning to crumble down. Structural integrity is still fine, but that's a problem, you think to yourself. Is there anything else that you can do with your turn, by the way? I realize I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I believe that's it. Azerax will, when they strike out, I feel like we'll see Azerax circling like a panther to try to get a better vantage point on these shadow effigies of his ancestors.
Absolutely incredible. We move back to the top of initiative. Above the well of memory, Marius, you stand once again facing this night walker. Your movements blurred with the speed of it.
So he like rolled out of the way, and part of the shield, the giant book cover has been like peeled away by like this necrotic energy. But then, quick as a flash, boom, boom, 3 more strikes. The lowest was a 23. Does that hit?
They absolutely. You're aiming for a 20 to hit.
Okay.
So
yeah, I have a plus 10 to hit, so my chances are pretty good. And I'm rolling with advantage because of my oath. So then that'll be 37 bludgeoning damage and 52 radiant damage.
My goodness, describe it.
Whew. So there's just like this new power that's been unlocked by the old gods. Marius moves at like the speed of something very fast, something that he's never seen before. He just darts around, boom, and he's always able to find a weak spot. He's always able to find somewhere that it's not defending itself, and the hammer just like smashes down first into like where the rib cage would be, and then he's like running to the side, like smashes 2 of the fingers, and then it like leers down to try and bite, and he like reverses the grip and the pick end of the hammer down into what would be its skull, and there's like a of radiant energy.
And it lurches back, its entire body sort of like flailing backwards as you just strike it right on the back of the head, such as your movements are so fast, radiant energy pouring through it, and it just dissipates. You see a thin layer of black smoke cover the top of the hole, almost like it's become a pool. And then one after the other, you see demonic, shadowy hands rising out of this murky substance, and a number of them are first going to attempt to grab hold of you, Marius. So I would like you to make a strength check, please, as they try and grapple onto you. 21 to beat.
Okay, I get plus 10 to this. 12, 22.
Oh,
that's close.
Tell me how you just evade their shadowy grasp.
I don't think he even does, but it's the dragon plate. So like they're grabbing at him, but because of this like powerful draconic strength, he's able to like pull the grasp away, and he's not pulled by them.
And as you pull away, you see that sort of thin layer of black energy that's spread out like a pool then sort of converges and rushes at you like that, swirling like a tornado. I would like you to make a Constitution saving throw, please.
Saving throws are like Marius' specialty. Because
you were designed to fight this motherfucker.
Excuse me, I'm dying.
Unless he succumbs to the illness.
Yes, he might. 17 is what I got.
Tell me what it's like as you're resisting something that's trying to get hold of your nervous system.
It's a good question. It's what I'm doing in real life. He's just standing there and like trying to bash these things away from him as best he can, and like pulling. And once he's like gotten through that, he like takes a breath, but he can feel it like approaching, and like trying to move in through every pore of his body. When he like closes his eyes and like says a prayer of like purification, and is able to like push whatever it is away.
And I realised it jumped in front of Weaver. So Weaver has been preparing something. He pulls his reptilian fingers up like that as he begins to swirl some kind of roiling ball of yellow energy that he draws from the telling. He pulls it out of the walls itself. You can see him using the power of this place to enforce his actions. And he is going to... Let's see. The Night Walker is reeling back from its failed attempt to grab hold of you, Marius. And as it's moving back, Weaver has moved along the gangway and is there waiting with this power in hand. And there is as a thunder wave echoes throughout the chamber. He's moved along the gangway, so he's not going to be in your range. So he's nice like that. And he does. It's very good, but still a trifle compared to what your output is currently, Marius. You can see the yellow energy of the telling wrapping around this creature. You can see almost like he's trying to summon these chains from this sonic boom. It goes, and these yellow energies basically start clasping onto the creature in an attempt to try and hold it still also. Taxes, you're back. Essentially, just to fill you in, the Silver Shock troops had charged you. Lyse was able to entangle 3 that are currently restrained,
Okay.
and one of them is free and went to strike at you but missed. It is now your turn.
All right. So I think the one that struck at me was probably the one that saw me from the door. I'm going to say that. The one that actually gets through and goes to strike at me. He misses. And I already pre-rolled. So how do you want me to do damage if I get a crit? It's just double dice, right? Double the damage dice?
Yep. Roll your dice twice and then add your modifier.
So, okay. Perfect. So that's going to be... Oh, yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so that's going to be 26 on that one, and then a 20 on the second attack. So one of them, he goes in, and just he grabs a hold of the arm that the soldier struck with, and just jabs up through the armpit, just with one of his scimitars. Flipping around, he sees one of the soldiers in front of him, and just the one straight ahead slides a blade, or attempts to slide a blade right up into the gut of one of these paralyzed, entangled people in front of him.
Excellent. So you're lashing out at them all, and
just
initially attacked you,
slaughterfest.
takes the attack, and then you stab into another. Incredible stuff. It is now their turn, and the guy that you have attacked is going to make his attempt to slice at you, and then I'll do the others who can try and escape. That is a natural 20, so the shock trooper is critical to you. Right back. That is going to be... That is 27 points of slashing damage as this being swings around and slices into you. Yeah, some scales come loose as its great sword drags across your form. The others are going to try and make that save, which is 17, if I'm correct, Lyse. One of them is able to break free, but is now unable to do anything else for the rest of his turn, I believe.
That is his action.
His action.
His action. He has some movement if he likes.
He's going to move into the tavern then. In that case, he's going to try and bust his way through, and he's going to try and get near you at least. The rest, unfortunately, are stuck in place. It is now your turn, Lyse.
Lyse is watching taxes and watching these men, and she pulls out this curved short bow and fires at one of the men who's still restrained, hitting him dead on. It was a crit, but 9 damage.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, it hits him squarely, and you hear it amongst the vines and stuff as the arrow hits its mark. Anything else?
For her bonus action, she will transform into the wolf. She sees this one rushing towards her, and she slings the bow over her shoulder, and there's the shimmer, and everything turns white. And there's a little just kind of thud as the paws hit the floor.
Yeah, there's this radiant light that pours out of the windows of the Bleeding Stone, the most mundane building in the entire city, and it's coated in incandescent light as you once again reveal the heritage of the Moon Elves, and you prepare to make your next move. Azerax, in the darkness high above in the spire, you have stolen away. What is it that you do now?
Seeing these shadow creatures striking out, unable to see him, I imagine that we see Azerax there. He holds puts one hand briefly underneath his nose. He feels something wet, the blood leaking out from the psychic assault. Vengeance. It's a drow instinct. something that burns and boils in his blood. His parents, shadow creatures, stand against him. They were powerful, but he's powerful as well. And he has something else, the power of the telling. On silent feet, he steps forward, I imagine, onto this turning dais to use it to move himself, maneuver himself around for a strike. As he does so, his hand holds out to the side. We see the spell glove itself turn inky black. A tendril of energy shoots out, and almost like spider legs shoot out from the sides to form the hilt of a sword that appears in his hand. Large, it is the antithesis of the blade of Damodred. This Zweihander of fucking gloom. As I cast Shadow Blade and come up behind these motherfuckers, we see him adopt a low stance. He leaps off of the dais. Fucking flame of blue flame shoots up the blade as he stabs it into the back of his father. I will use my action to cast Green Flame Blade. Now, Rob, I'm rolling with advantage, right?
You certainly are. You're unaware of it, yes.
I took the Elven Accuracy feat, which is probably the best feat in the game, which allows you to reroll a damage die. I'm casting Shadow Blade at a 5th level spell, which does 4d8 points of psychic damage, plus the 1d8 for the motherfucking Green Flame Blade, plus 1d6 sneak. Long story short, I crit and I did 53 points of damage to this son of a bitch. It appears out the front of his father, and we see his eyes narrow as he looks into his mother. He smiles. You're not real. A shaft of light shoots out for 13 more points of damage because Green Flame Blade allows the flame to jump off. 13 points of fire damage to her as he stands there, shadow, gloom, incarnate.
Take another point of inspiration. How can I not? Locrius, or rather Azerax, I would like you to tell me of a memory you have that you think of your father as you put his shadowy form down.
It is, I imagine it's when he was, Azerax was still a child. He must have still been a child. And I imagine that it was his banishment. They took him away. We see the benighted drow chamber. The effigies of the Spider Queen have been taken down by the strange new worshippers of the horrors that lie beneath Deep Lantern. There are looks of disgust on everyone's face, except for him and his family. There's looks of sorrow, looks of fear. His father is bound and gagged, unable to cast his arcane spells, but it's his eyes that somehow through the darkness smile at Azerax, as if to tell him everything is going to be okay.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. The shadowy form of your mother perceives you. Would you have been revealed at this point? I forgot to ask.
So non-detection is a ridiculous spell, evidently. It lasts for 8 hours, and it's not concentration.
So attacking doesn't break you out of it?
I don't think so. I mean, that's up to you. I would make sound, right? And I would be like physically visible. So yeah. I don't know if I don't know the nature of them. That's totally up to you.
In that case, the other shadow is just going to aim a blast at where the other shadow creature fell. So I am going to ask you to do a dexterity saving throw for me, please, Azerax.
That's a 14 on the die. I think that I have a high one, though. It's plus 7, 21.
Oh my goodness me. Tell me how you just managed to get out of the... Oh no, you'll take half unless you have evasion. Do you have evasion?
No, I don't.
You're going to take half there, my friend, as there's another, as this sort of sonic energy ripples across and shadowy fingers sort of reach towards you as you take that is 16 points of sonic damage.
Is that halved or no?
That's halved, yes.
Okay. Oh, wait! I apologize. Azerax will hold up his spell glove at the last moment. It's as if it drinks the sound in as I cast absorb elements as a reaction. I will use absorb elements as a reaction to have. Oh no, does that just have the damage?
It's sound.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, that's fine. For now, we'll say like we'll cut away as you reach out, and we'll see if you are able to block that power or not. Marius, you are standing before the Night Walker, and it is beginning to reform into its shape.
Not today. He will dart forward, and he sees that it's like starting to lose coalescence and that it's like falling apart. And so he's just going to hammer it 3 more times. The lowest roll I got this time was a 23, which again is over 20.
Tell me.
And it's 45 bludgeoning damage, 36 radiant damage for a total of 101 damage. But now I'm out of spells.
It yet lingers. But I want you to tell me what it looks like as you are ripping through this thing with radiant power.
It's like not something that I don't think mortal eyes can see. He's like moving so fast with the haste spell. So it's just these occasional, like, you can see the shape of the thing, and it's so dark that occasionally it's almost like lightning is flashing. It's just like boom, boom, where he like smashes the hammer into it, and there's a sudden like boom of light. But other than that, it's just darkness, and he appears and whack. There's these like almost thunderous crashes. He hits it with the radiant damage, but then finally he'll like skid to a halt again and raise a shield, ready for what's coming.
And it is a thing that's held together by strings of shadow now. It has gone from this sort of overbearing cloud of energy to now this wretched thread of what it used to be. And it just gives out a... It's half climbing out of the hole. And what it's going to do is just going to try and pull you in with it. So I would like you to make... 3 successive strength checks, please, as 3 arms reach out of the shadow and try and grasp onto you. That's a 22, a 27, and a critical. Which would total 31, I think. Yes. So it's got you. And it's basically going to reach out with its hand and basically try and pull you into the hole with it. But that takes up all of his action, essentially, and his movement is going down the hole. So you are being dragged into the hole. Weaver is going to attempt to try and grab you, to try and prevent your being pulled down into the darkness with it. He reaches out, and it is almost like a tug of war. You see this yellow energy, these chains that these sort of telling chains that you pull out of the other dimension, like he is trying to wrap that around you to try and hold you. So now there's this sort of golden energy wrapped with black energy, and you are at its center, Marius. Taxes. Your turn.
All right, so Taxes is already kind of gone and started ripping through these men. Are 2 of them still kind of impeded, or that how many have broken out?
So there's 1 that burst free, so there's 2 that are free, and there are 2 that are still ramped up.
2 that are free, okay. Of the 2 that are free, I obviously want to protect Lyse best I can, right? So sure. I think he turns around and he kind of uses his tail he'll get down in that serpentine position. He'll use his tail sort of to impede their step. And as he does so, he brings one of the blades through the kneecap of one of the guards as he's running up toward him. And then the other one in front of him, the one that he stabbed before, he's going to try to slice at like the neck or any sort of vital organ that he can. I got a crit on one of them for a whopping 32 points of damage.
Okay.
Yep.
That's the first one down.
That's the first one.
What did you get for the second one?
And then I got, let's see, 18 to hit. Would that work?
Hits.
Just hits. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I did the math for that, and that's 16 points of damage for that one.
Okay, so he staggers on, but tell me how you killed the first one.
So the first one, I hit a vital organ, like a vital artery, right in the back of the knee, right? And I think as he's running, I pull, and the knee just sort of buckles and falls forward, and he just starts bleeding out on the ground as he's trying to struggle to get to her, like pulling himself forward. He collapses from blood loss.
Fantastic, yeah. A vertical slice up the artery is more than enough to finish him in moments. And he collapses in front of you, Lyse. And it is now their turn. The one that you've hit is going to recoil back, and he's going to try and strike out at your taxes. Critically fails.
Nice.
So he goes to swing at you, but like his blade, you're fighting sort of half in and half out of the doorway. So his blade glances off the stone, essentially. The other two are going to attempt to escape. They, for the life of them, are not getting out of there. They can't roll a 17 to save their lives. Lyse, it is your turn.
Lyse in her wolf form pounces, barreling towards the one who'd struck towards taxes. A 22 to hit. He'll need a DC 14 strength save to not be prone. And he's
prone.
Yeah, he's going to take 12 damage. He's now prone, and due to my pack tactics, taxes will have advantage on any hits against this fellow.
It doesn't matter. He's dead. Tell me how you kill him.
Okay. Yeah, so she lands on him, this massive paw pinning him to the ground, and then sorry. No, this is a little bitty paw, and then sorry, just bites down right at the neck and shoulder and tears.
And with a guttural splatter, the shock troop is dead on the ground. The other two are writhing hopelessly in the vines. Amazing stuff. Azerax, high above, you face down your mother.
As these tendrils of shadow lash out at him, this psychic assault, it's too much for him. He clutches at his temple, and we see the sword, the shadow blade, shatter as I fail my concentration check. I also did not have absorb elements. I don't have absorb elements. I don't know why I thought I had it. I played too many wizards. He feels this shaking him to his core, and he knows that he's not going to be able to survive this onslaught for much more. We see from underneath his cloak, he pulls out something. It's a mask. It is one of those masks that he had the potter make in Freedom Salvation. No time to think, he lays it on the ground. We see again the spell glove glows inky black as another blade appears in his hand, but this time it's smaller, curved like a scimitar, cruelly cut of drow design. He leaps again onto this the spinning dais to give himself distance between him and this effigy of his mother. So part of Shadowblade is it has the throne property. So I'm not going to cast Green Flame Blade, but I am going to throw it I rolled with advantage. I didn't remember to roll damage, so I'll do that now. But I got an 18 on the die plus 6 is a 24 to hit.
Yep, definitely connects. And you are with advantage, and they don't know you're there, so sneak.
All right. So it's not a crit, but it is a sneak. So it's going to be 3d8 plus 1d6. That is real quick. 16, 17, 18, 19 points of damage as it the sword of solidified gloom shoots forward and stabs into the chest of his mother. As he moves out of range of the mask, the magic mouth spell goes off. You dare stand against me? I am the Gloom Father! As for magic mouth, you can cast it and have whatever. It's like super open-ended, so I figure Azerax kept one to use it as a distraction device in case he gets 30 feet away is the condition. So I'm attempting to draw her fire because Azerax is probably bleeding from his eyes at this point.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, you absolutely draw the fire as once again with these no. The arcanist speaks. We cannot see you, Gloom Father. The shadows are truly your ally. But you can hear me. Wisdom saving throw, please.
Does a 14 do it? If not, I'm going to use my inspiration and try to do it. Wisdom is not.
Yeah, it's not going to do it, I'm afraid.
All right, here we go. That's a 2 on the die. No way.
You succumb. Your mother's visage once again reaching forward towards you and rests a palm upon you. You're going to take 10 points of psychic damage.
Is it a spell that she's casting?
It is.
Azerax will utter at the last moment, he feels that warm touch and he looks down and he sees his own spell glove thrumming with the shadow energy. A word of abjuration, Dumach, as I cast a counterspell. That's my reaction.
And it is dispelled. You were inches away from having your mind irreversibly driven to madness. So good job. Marius, you are in the clutches of this beast that is trying to drag you into the abyss in a last desperate attempt to stop you.
There's no magic left in Marius, but there is in the hammer, and he's just swinging it, even though he's like he's like hammering at the darkness and the shadow all around him. The lowest was a 22. It's a 41 bludgeoning damage. So he's just boom, 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 like hammering out and like headbutting and smashing the shield as best he can and just trying to end this thing. He's not going to go down without a fight.
And why don't you tell me exactly what it looks like as while Weaver continues to hold you in the air with the power of the telling, you make a crushing final blow against the Nightwalker.
So it's probably like glowing in different places from like the radiant damage that he had done already. And that's where he's striking, and he's like using the back end of the hammer, the pointy end. He doesn't know if it's helping or not because this thing doesn't really have a form. Nonetheless, he's just like smashing it into it. And there's like at the final strike, the hammer like does a of its own, and you can hear that "I forgive you" as it like smashes in, and the thing is collapses into itself.
Point of inspiration as the Nightcrawler basically, collapses into itself. You can see its horns sort of like separating and pulling apart as it goes into the darkness, and you're just being held above the chasm by Weaver, who immediately starts trying to pull you back out of the hole. taxes. Before you, there are 2 silver shock troopers ensnared within the vines.
He's panting from fighting, but there's a moment where he just starts to stalk. He's kind of calmed down now. He looks to Lyse.
Leave one alive? Or should I just take him out now?
The wolf cocks its head at you, but you get the sense it wants you to leave one alive.
Fair enough.
And then that's when he'll slowly stalk them, kind of like just an animal stalking its prey. You see him kind of like circle around them in the bar for a minute, and then he strikes.
Well, I can tell you now, Chad, before you don't even need to roll. Essentially, when
Yep.
restrained, you're going to get an auto-critical hit, which will be enough to kill one of them outright with your Barbarian Fury. So just tell me how you kill one of them.
Perfect. I think at this point, it's almost a mercy kill. He sheathes both of his blades back into their holsters, and he brings up that large dragon tail, wrapping it around the throat of one of these restrained men. And as he's trying desperately to claw, the neck just gets tighter and tighter, and you hear a snap. And he just falls to the ground. He looks at the other one, still restrained.
You want me to do that to you too? I'm fine with it. What do you want?
And he is just enwrapped with vines. Like half of his face is covered, and he's just like absolutely terrified of you, but is unable to do anything.
Single claw. Just cuts enough of the vines to open the mouth.
Lyse, your turn.
Lyse will step forward, and as she does so, shift out of the wolf form and look down at this one ensnared Advent guard. We should question him. I'll get the rope. You bring him inside.
Gladly.
And it's like this single fist just, when you punch somebody to knock them out, just, and then drags off into the darkness.
Yeah, you're apps able to do so. And as this individual sees darkness, we return to the darkness upon the spire. And Azerax, you see your mother once again looking around, desperately trying to find you as you are in the shadows. Azerax, where are you? My beautiful son. Would you do it? Would you sacrifice everything for this? We put an end to the darkness because of the lives that it cost on both sides, and it wasn't worth it. Don't do it. Don't sacrifice everything that we died for.
We see the air ripple. Azerax appears, crouched down, clutching at his temple. He holds up his hand. No more. It is too much. I cannot pass your test. As I cast minor illusion with sight and sound because I'm an illusionist. And I'm attempting to draw out motherfucking the arcanist. Stop. Please. I'm not strong enough.
And fully believing you have revealed yourself as they cannot detect you, the shadow of your mother dissipates, and the decrepit old projection, an amalgamation of the arcane masters that used your parents' legacy to begin a regime of magical control that would last 200 years. The Magisterium. You see this vile old man just stagger forth. It is good you have come to your senses. You must remain in the light with us. And he reaches out a hand towards your illusion. Not to take your hand, but waiting for you to place your hand in his. Waiting with a sinister smile on his face.
The arcanist looking forward. I imagine he would see the scimitar, the blade of shadow, fall soundlessly to the ground where the mother was. It wobbles for a second and appears at his throat as I use my bonus action to call the shadow blade to me. He hears a whisper in his ear. Do not make me kill you, old man. I'm sure I could figure this thing out on my own.
Marius. Weaver is able to drop you onto the side of the memory well. And he collapses back onto the ground. You can see that the area effect spell that I went for you with a couple of times, Weaver wasn't quite so lucky. You can see that there are large welt marks running through where his robes are. You can see that where he'd already been wounded, he's still bleeding, and he doesn't look in the best shape at all. And he's like breathing heavily. You did it. You defeated a night walker. And like he doubles over and like spits blood onto the ground.
Marius is still like moving very, very quickly, and he's still breathing like because of the haste, and then starts to wear off, and he like has to grab a hold of like a rail to stay standing, because suddenly all of those borrowed bits of time that he had been using kind of come crashing back, and he feels quite ill. Yeah, I suppose I did. We did it, I guess. You don't look so good.
Muted. Weaver tries to suppress a laugh. No, Marius, you did it. You have become more powerful than I. It is true. And he basically like tries to go to stand and sort of like slips and like hits the ground. We must find a way. We must find some way to recover what it is that Equinox destroyed.
Marius like cracks his neck in one direction and then in the other, and then like scratches at the back of his head. Doesn't feel very well, feels a little ill. Suppose you better speak quickly, because I don't think you have much time left.
Weaver looks at you from the ground and he shakes his head. There must be a way we can recover it. But we need a grimoire. The only grimoire.
Yeah. The drow will know what to do. This is his realm of stuff. I pretend like it's beyond me. I do understand it in theory. I just don't care for it. In fact, I hate it. To me, the magic of the telling is the same as all of the other magics. It all leads to people painting themselves floating above mountains. It's no good. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's holy. I think it's an abomination. But if anyone knows, Azerax will.
And he gives a nod. It is true. Where is he?
I don't know. He went to... where did he go? Like, Marius is like struggling to think. He went somewhere to a tower, somewhere... but he's been so focused on like the phylactery and that kind of thing. He wasn't too concerned with where they were all going in different places. He knew he was going back to Freedom Salvation. So he would say that. There'll be a Freedom Salvation.
And that is where we must go.
The phylactery.
I do not know where it is, but we can go south and try. But and he clutches his side again.
I did not chase them halfway across the country, not stopping for 5 days to lose it. Not for some chance of one of them going one way and me going the wrong way. Cannot give up like that.
Well, this is where you decide, Marius. If indeed your true enemy lies to the south, you must go. But if we have any hope of defeating Equinox and Advent, we must find Azerax. We must find Grim.
He like wrinkles his nose. He paces back and forth a little bit and grubs at his eye. Just, fuck! He punches a hole into one of the walls. It's always fucking ultimatums with you people.
I'm sorry, Marius. I'm sorry I couldn't have been better. I'm sorry I couldn't have set a greater example.
Yeah, I'm sorry too. Would have been useful at the beginning. Don't need it now.
What will you do?
I'm going to walk up out of this building, and then I'm going to roll myself a cigarette, and I'm going to think about what I'm going to do next. I'm going to pet my horse and have a thought.
Azerax. You stand with the blade at the arcanist's throat. You can almost feel that his presence is there. And he gives a curt nod. It is your will, Gloomfather. Addressing you by your new moniker. This is your legacy. Your parents did all the work here. The power is in your blood. You need only decide. If you would have darkness spread across this land, simply connect, and he gestures at your spell glove with the source, and he points to the seal on the floor.
Azerax looks down. The blade of shadow absorbs back into the spell glove. He turns to the arcanist. And he says, "This power is mine to command. Tell me, will I be able to undo what I do? My father was able to do it, yes.
And do you rival your father in power now? Have you not also achieved great things? This power has always been yours. The endless night is your legacy."
I see. Azerax looks up. He sees the sun. He looks at this roiling ball of blackness. Gazes at this arcane marvel before him. He holds out his hand. The spell glove again turns black. As he holds it out, Azerax invokes the power and brings about the third endless night.
Marius, you're sat in the rain. And while it is still it's just coming up to noon and the sun is high in the air, and then you see it. Lyse, Taxes, you were just dragging this last shock trooper into the tavern when you both glance up and you see it too. Azerax, your power hits the wandering sun and it collapses and unfolds. You see the black tendrils that you had been wrestling with within this chamber reach out like pillars of darkness, spreading across the sky. And as the rain falls and the sun vanishes, all there is starlight. And that is where we're going to leave our heroes tonight. So, thank you ever so much to my wonderful players. As always a pleasure. What we're going to do is we're going to individually go one by one. We're going to sign off with a thought of the game, and we're going to do the same order. We'll start with Taylor.
It's good to be back. It's been a really long time since we had played this, and it's great to see these characters in action again. Really enjoying it.
Fantastic, and very well played indeed, Taylor. Chad.
Oh man, so much happened in that one game. I gotta say, Rob, I'm very proud to call you my DM, and also dude, you just did a masterclass in how to handle split party awesomeness. This was awesome. This was super cool. You kept the flow going. Fantastic, sir. Thank you. As far as everything else, dude, everybody killed it tonight. It was so good. I'm so happy. And I cannot wait for next session. What is going to happen with all this darkness? It's super cool.
Cheers, man. I played Lloyd.
All that power always corrupts. People drawing themselves to the top of mountains, floating in the air, people stopping the sun and hiding it. It's no good. No good. People turning themselves into liches. No good. Marius is increasingly zealous, I think. That was very intense. Battered that thing, which is very enjoyable. Gave it hell. Thanks for the game.
You did batter it, mate, which is insane. The damage is insane. I did that is a challenge rating 25 creature that you just beat on your own. Just saying, challenge ratings mean nothing. All right, nothing. Everyone watching, nothing. Very well played, mate. Very well done, and awesome to see that you have haste now. You kept that one quiet, which I enjoyed. Also, let's talk about other spell effects being kept quiet. Let's talk to Lorekeepers, my man.
What is going on, everybody? It's Lorekeepers. I love this game. This was just such a special game. It was really, really amazing. It's cool to have something in your character's backstory and, like, you know, go on this long thing and then have just such a fucking poignant moment. It was really amazing. Thanks for letting me do it. My name is Lorekeepers. I think I said that already. I'm going to get a painting of me flying on top of a mountain above a roiling black sun. I actually can block out the sun in real life, as you can tell by my camera. It is the endless night in Massachusetts right now. I can't wait for the next game. Let's schedule it sooner rather than later, just because, oh my God. I love this game. I love you guys. It's great. Thank you so much. Oh, I almost forgot, but I love that Grim did that intro. I love the intro too. And you guys are all awesome.
Thank you very much, mate. And to all of those watching now and after the fact, if you like this video, give it a like. If you'd like to see more like it, and give me a subscribe or not. We're all friends here. Or are we? Take it easy. And I hope that all of your performances are up to standard.